I never thought a single photo could destroy the world I had carefully built around us. My name is Ryan, and I've always believed that trust is the foundation of any relationship. Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years, had been my anchor, or so I thought. We met in college when life was simpler and the world seemed to bend in our favor. She was charming, magnetic, and so fiercely independent that I had fallen for her instantly. I admired her confidence, the way she could hold a room with just a smile, and the way she laughed at things I barely understood. I believed that our bond was solid, that our love was unshakable. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A casual glance at her phone became a habit I hated but couldn't resist. The late-night texts, the whispered conversations, the sudden defensiveness. It all built a tension that I tried to ignore. I told myself I was overthinking, that my insecurities were getting the better of me. Emma had a way of making me feel like the problem, as if my jealousy, my questions, my concerns were simply symptoms of my own paranoia. And for a while I believed her. Then came the photo. It wasn't just any photo, it was Emma smiling, her arm draped around her ex Matt. The caption was casual, almost mocking. "Some things never change." My chest tightened, my vision narrowed. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground beneath me crumbling. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I didn't. I simply stared, numb, as the likes and comments rolled in. The betrayal wasn't just in the image. It was in her smugness, her audacity to post it so publicly. She wasn't even trying to hide it. The confrontation was inevitable. Later that evening, I brought it up calmly, trying to maintain a shred of composure. "Emma, why would you post that?" I asked, my voice steady, though inside I was boiling. She looked at me, rolled her eyes, and smirked. "Ryan, your jealousy is your problem," she said, almost laughing. That sentence hit harder than any insult ever could. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't remorseful. She was mocking me, positioning herself above me, flaunting control. It was like a dagger through my chest, twisting slowly. I felt the old Ryan, the patient, trusting Ryan, die a little that night. And as she walked away, sipping her wine, scrolling through the comments that praised her playful teasing, I realized one thing. She had underestimated me, and she was about to learn that every action has its consequence. The next few days were quiet, almost eerily so. Emma acted as if nothing had happened, laughing at memes, texting friends, and moving through our apartment like a queen in her kingdom, while I observed from the sidelines, measuring my patience. I could have erupted in anger, confronted her publicly, or stormed out. But I didn't. I had learned long ago that when someone underestimates you, the best response is controlled silence. I began to watch her more closely, not out of obsession, but to understand the woman I thought I knew. Every glance at her phone, every unexplained smile, every sudden laughter made a knot tighten in my stomach. Something about the casual way she carried herself, so confident, so untouchable, told me that the post wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. She wanted to provoke me, to test me, to assert dominance. And she didn't know that I was already planning my own move, carefully, patiently, like a chess player waiting for the right moment. That Saturday, she invited me to a small gathering at her friend's apartment. I went, pretending to be indifferent, though my mind was sharp, alert, and calculating. She laughed with Matt, the ex, just as she had in the photo. My heart pounded, not with fear or jealousy but with clarity. This was the moment. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply waited, smiling politely, nodding at introductions, letting everyone else talk. She noticed me holding back, and I could see the irritation flicker in her eyes. That smirk she wore online? Slowly it began to falter. After a while, I casually mentioned a few private memories, events she had shared with me that only the two of us knew. "Remember our trip to the lake last summer? You said Matt would never understand how messy the canoe ride was." She froze just for a second, then laughed nervously. That's when I knew she realized I wasn't the same person who would blindly accept her games anymore. The calm, composed Ryan had returned, and this time, he wasn't blind to her manipulation. She tried to brush it off, but I kept weaving details she hadn't intended to reveal. A subtle question here, a reference there. Each time her confidence wavered. Each tiny slip made her mask of superiority crack. By the end of the night, I had given her one clear message without ever raising my voice. I knew I saw, and she could no longer control the narrative. The power dynamic had shifted, And it wasn't subtle, it was complete. The days that followed were a strange mix of tension and revelation. Emma became quieter around me, no longer laughing carelessly or flaunting her freedom. I could see the uncertainty creeping into her eyes, the realization that the game had ended. The same woman who had mocked me, told me my jealousy was my problem, and posted that daring photo with her ex, now hesitated to speak. It was a subtle victory, but one I savored quietly. I didn't need revenge in the dramatic sense. Her anxiety, the shift in her demeanor, was punishment enough. One evening she tried to regain control. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, her voice dripping with forced calm. "Ryan, you're overreacting. It's just a photo." I looked at her, steady and unflinching. "Just a photo?" I echoed softly. "The thing about just a photo is that it shows who you really are. And now I see clearly." Her lips parted as if to argue, but no words came. That was the moment I realized she understood that the dynamic between us had permanently changed. From that point I focused on myself, my work, my friends, my life. I stopped monitoring her every move, stopped asking questions that no longer mattered. The calm detachment wasn't coldness, it was clarity. Emma's antics no longer held power over me. And that shift gave me a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in months. She tried subtly to draw me back into arguments, to provoke jealousy, but I remained composed. Each attempt she made was a reminder that the consequences of her own choices were finally catching up with her. Weeks later, she posted another picture with Matt, this time expecting a reaction. I didn't give her one. I didn't comment, I didn't react. I simply continued with my life. The likes and comments rolled in just as they had before, but the thrill, the control she once wielded over me was gone. She had underestimated me, believing that her manipulations would continue to work. But now the only person she could influence was herself. By the end, Emma learned a hard truth. Mocking someone who knows exactly what they're doing is dangerous. And for me, the lesson was simple. Respect, trust, and patience are powerful weapons. When they are ignored or taken for granted, the fallout is inevitable. I didn't need to yell, threaten, or act rashly. I let the situation unfold, and the consequences spoke for themselves. Sometimes the most satisfying victory comes not from action, but from restraint, and this time that restraint was absolute.